Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 543, written by Skyrimfireshout. My sister manifesting miracles. My little sister-in-law is 15 years old, and since 4 years ago, when we met, she has been all I can describe it as manifesting. They're always small details, but they happen so often that you can't ignore it. The first time I witnessed it was when our grocery delivery was postponed by 1 day. On the day it was postponed, my sister-in-law came up to me and said, "Wouldn't it be funny if our delivery got postponed again?" 2 minutes later, I got a phone call that their delivery guy had been slow on his route and will be getting ours tomorrow. Another instance was when we had a power cut and she walked by me and asked, "Hey, do you think our power will be out all night?" "I don't know, sister-in-law. We haven't heard anything about it at all." "Well, hopefully it comes back on real soon." And just as my sister-in-law says this, the power comes on as soon as she starts walking away from me. There was a time when we were sitting at the kitchen bench eating breakfast. She was researching chickenpox, and then she said, "Wouldn't it be funny if one of our nieces got chickenpox?" And about a day later, of course without fail, my niece's mom calls and asks my mother-in-law for an at-home itch remedy since niece has chickenpox. Okay, you can clearly see where I'm going with this. There was of course one event that shook me up the most. When I had started dating my significant other about 3 months in, my sister-in-law comes to me and says, "I hope you're still around in 2 years so my brother can name your daughter after me, because I'm special." In the way a child would joke, of course, and that was all it was to me. However, it stuck because of how innocent that statement seemed. I was diagnosed with infertility in my late teens due to chronic bacterial infections. Everyone who has qualified to make that decision came to the same conclusion. If I was to get pregnant, it'd be a miracle. And wouldn't you know, my sister-in-law, of course, wants to defy the odds. 1 week before mine and my significant other's second anniversary, my sister-in-law and I are having a casual conversation in the kitchen when she looks at me and says, "I would hate to be a mom and have to miscarry. That would be so sad. If you were to lose your bubba though, sis, I bet you'd get pregnant again straight away." And right on our anniversary, I find out I'm pregnant, but just like my sister-in-law manifested, I miscarry before I even get to my scheduled ultrasound. Obviously, my heart is broken, but I power through and ask my significant other if we can try for a baby again. The only thing I can do is keep track of my ovulation and hope for the best. It literally only takes us 2.5 months to get pregnant again, and I give birth to a girl to whom my significant other names after his little sister, even though we had disagreed throughout the whole pregnancy on the name. I wanted her to be named after my sister. I will say this to the day I die, there really is something special about her. Or maybe it's just a glitch in the matrix and she has somehow hacked the system. Take it however you want. It still freaks me out how accurate she can be sometimes. Or maybe how she can manifest miracles. Case notes, file number 543. Your sister-in-law has the tools downloaded into her mind. Like playing an MMO on developer mode, but without realizing you're in developer mode. As you mentioned, being infertile and diagnosed as such by multiple specialists, to get pregnant even once is a miracle, but twice? Any bookie would have taken that bet with 20,000 to 1 odds. I wonder how she feels, though. She must have realized by now that her instincts come true, perhaps only when verbalized? I wonder how often she thinks something and then it happens. If you haven't already, I would ask her more about it if I were you. Learn about this power because it has so many applications to safeguard your family and build a wonderful life, really. And congratulations on the miracle baby girl. Bonus file, written by Big One Tony. She's my daughter, but it's just a dream. I was never a guy that really believed in paranormal situations or anything, but something very strange happened to me this morning, and it still sends shivers down my spine. People may say I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but this is what it felt like to me. I am a 21-year-old with no kids. It's important to know the story. So I went with my dog for a walk this morning and was about to cross the street when I noticed a girl about my age staring at me from the other street, parallel to the one I was on. I first did not think a lot about it and kept going. Then I saw how she crossed the street to come to the one I was walking on while she was still staring at me. We crossed ways, and when she was closer, I could see her expression, and it was something like pity and nostalgia. It felt like she knew me from somewhere. Well, we crossed paths, but of course I did not stop to stare at her back. I just kept going. Then I turned to look at her once more, and she was still standing on the same spot I walked past her 5 seconds ago, and she was looking straight in my face with the same expression of pity. I continued walking, and after a few seconds, I turned again, and she was still there, staring at me with the exact same expression as the last time I turned back to look at her before I continued my walk with the dog. I don't know why or how, but a thought came directly into my mind, without any previous context. In my head, I was convinced that girl was my daughter, from the future, and she was looking at me that way because I died and she was missing me. The whole day, I'm still really freaked out by this experience, and I thought about it. Look, my dad died when I was 7, and the night of his death, my mom dreamed he came into her dream and talked to her. He said he's okay and that she doesn't have to be worried about him. What if in my daughter's timeline, I died, and this moment was me in her dream, seeing her for the last time, like my father saw my mother for the last time in her dream? My father seemed to recognize my mother in the dream, and somehow I had that instant thought without previous context that that girl was my daughter. I recognized her instantly. I get shivers down my spine while I'm writing this. Like I said, I never had anything to do with paranormal things. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I never believed in ghosts, but I have no explanation for this. Maybe I am just crazy. I would like to read some opinions. Creepy file number 13, written by whtafntime, the Walmart voice. When I was about 15, I came out to my mom and we bumped heads so much that she sent me to Las Vegas to live with my dad, whom I've never met before. My dad is a minister and his wife is a pastor. I guess you could say it was her way of conversion therapy? I don't know. My dad and stepmom let me know all the time how much they didn't like me or my lifestyle. I went to church 3 to 4 times a week, and my dad would beat me all the time. He was so angry. I would call my mom and ask her to please bring me back. She wouldn't get me. One day, my dad and I got into a huge argument. He accused me of talking to girls and broke my phone. I had it, so I left. I stayed one night in the apartment complex with some older guy I used to hang out with, but he got weird, so I found some change and found a payphone to call my friend and ask if I could stay at her house. She said it was cool, but she had to sneak me in. I found a way over to her house and ended up getting kicked out because my stepmom called her grandmother looking for me, and her uncle comes upstairs saying he doesn't allow unpleasant word in his home. It was about 9 p.m. at this point. I had no clue where I really was, where I was going, or how I was going to get anywhere, so I just walked. I walked for hours until I found something that looked remotely safe in my child mind. I found a neighborhood Walmart. I was exhausted. It was around 2 a.m., so I sat at a picnic table in the front and dozed off. I will never forget this voice, but someone screamed, "Wake up." I immediately jumped up and turned around, and there were 2 men about 3 feet away from me. They paused as I looked up at them, trying not to seem frightened. One of them breaks the silence with a weird smile and says, do you know if the store is open?" I was confused and said, "Yes, I think it's 24 hours. They didn't say anything else and just walked away. To this day, I have no idea whose voice that was that said, "Wake up," but I will never forget it. All I can think about is why were 2 men walking up to a sleeping child at 2 to 3 a.m. asking if a store was open they could just walk into, and how it seemed I woke up in just the right amount of time to prevent God knows what.